Hello students, welcome to lecture 8. In lecture 8 we will be discussing about exception handling. I'm your course teacher Supriya Sarkar. Let's first talk about what is an exception. An exception is an event which occurs during execution of a program that disrupts the normal flow of the program. So we know that when a program executes, it executes its statements, all the statements step by step. So there is a flow. When there is a disruption or interruption between when executing two statements, there is a loss of flow, or there is a interruption of flow occurs. So this kind of situation is called exception. Uh, Actually, a program can halt, or a program can provide us error for different reasons. Sometimes they occur for syntax error or any logical error. So exception is more than that. So exception is not a syntax error actually. Exception is a situation that can happen, or that can we can overlook that in some way. There are some options, or there are some ways how following that ways we can handle some exceptions in every language, and in today's class we will see how Python can handle some exceptions. So, and exception handling is means that responding to the occurrence of an exception. That means when a exception occurs, Python or any other programming language try to handle that exception and recover and let not the program be halted, or let not the program be crashed. So you know that when there is some kind of error occurs, the program is halted, and or there is a chance to crash the program. So we will try that this kind of try to avoid this kind of situation and handle that exception. So you can see a program. This program is doing some division on a value by 0. So you know that when we try to divide some any value by 0, then it will provide us an error, because we see that we have seen that in previous languages like C, or if you have any experience in other languages, in all cases when we try to divide as integer or a float or any other values by 0, then this kind of error occurs. So this is a error which is called zero division error. That means we cannot divide by 0. So why do we need exception handling? I have already told you why we need to handle exception. I am repeatedly telling you that exception handling ensures that the flow of the program doesn't break when an exception occurs. If we see this example again, in this block I write a code segment that creates an error. So what will happen to the other lines of codes after this block? So there may be other blocks after this portion. So when there is an exception occurs, and all other programs stops executing. So this is a problem. So if in somehow if I can handle this portion and handle this error or handle this exception, if I am able to handle this exception, then all the other lines of codes will execute perfectly. So this is a benefit. So if I cannot be able to handle this situation, it will create all the program. It will make all the other programs stopped. So we do not want this kind of situation. So for that reason, we have to handle this kind of exception. There is an example. For example, if a program has bunch of statements, that this portion I told you just before just a while. For example, if a program has bunch of statements and an exception occurs midway after executing certain statements, then the statements after the exception will not execute and the program will terminate abruptly. That means in this point, the program has terminated abruptly, and the other lines of code will not going for execution. So we can handle exception in two ways. Uh, in real life and also in our programming life. In real life, when this kind of situation occurs, so when in our childhood, when we had tried to divide something by zero, what we find, if in general sense, in real life scenario, if I divide some mangoes, if I divide 5 mangoes between 0 people, so what will be the value? The value will be 5 because there is no people. There is 0 people. That means there is no people. So in real life scenario, if I try to divide by 0, that will give me the same value, the intake value that I take as input. That means in real life scenario, I divide two mangoes in 0 people. The remaining mangoes will be 2. The result will be 2. But in case of this is an exception. We cannot divide as 2 mangoes in 0 people. This is an exceptional case. There is no people. This is an exceptional case. So in real life scenario, we in exceptional case we can decide that the result will be 2. That means we cannot divide anything, divide among any people. So the result will be 2. But in case of programming languages, it will give me an error. In Python, it will give me an error. So this is the two cases how we can handle exception. We can set our desired result to handle exception, or it will provide us some kind of error. So this is the some process that we can handle. These are called process of exception handling. So there are 4 keywords. They are all keywords: try, except, else, and finally. They are keywords. These 4 keywords are used in Python to handle exception. So I am going to tell you what they meant for step by step. All these 4 is not necessary in every program, but in certain scenario they are required for required in some programs. But try and except is necessary for every program if I try to handle any exception. So let's discuss these keywords and the significance of these keywords. So try means try will create a block. So inside this inside the curly braces, this I am trying to indicate that there is a block. We will see in the coming lectures how we can write and describe this try block. So this is a block in a curly braces. So the what is the functionality of this block? Inside this try block, we write a code and run that code, and that means we are checking whether there is an exception inside the code or not. So we just run the code, whatever I write in the try block, and then what happened? Except will check, except will execute this code when there is an exception. So when the except part executed when there is an exception in try block. When there is an exception occurs in try block, then the control move to the except, and except will execute, or the commands inside the except block will execute. And what happened to the else? Else means run this block when no exceptions occur. That means when except will not occur, that means this block will not occur, the control do not move into this block, then the control move to the else block. That means try means it will check the exception. If exception occurs, then the control move to the else. If exception not occurs, then the control move to the else option. Okay. Then finally, no matter what runs this code, if or if not for exception. That means no matter exception occurs or not. Exception occurs or not. That means this is for exception and this is not for exception. When no matter exception occurs or exception did not occur, the finally block will run. Definitely the finally block will run. It is definite. So this block will run. So let's move to the code segment. One by one, we will discuss this phenomena or these blocks. Let's first discuss try and except. So inside try, I write a equal to 5, b equal to a string that holds a character 0. It is a string value. So you see there is a quotation. And I am trying to divide a by b. That means 5 by string 0. This will create an exception because the type did not match. They are not in a compatible type. That means a 5 cannot be divided by any string. Then there will an error, and we will try to handle this error via exception handling. Then in the except, I write a line. Some error occurred. Only this will create some error occurs. So this is the significance of exception handling. If I did not write this exception portion, if I just in a normal language, in a normal code, if I write only this portion and no matter I write try or except, if I write only this portion, it will create a error. So here in the errors in this section, I will get an error if I write only this portion, and all the other code segments after this portion will be halted. So I did not want this, and I technically handle this by writing this exception. And now my program is showing me for this error, my program is showing me that some error occurred. So only this line will be executed, and after that all the other lines is completely is nicely executed. That means this print out of the print section is executed out of the try except blocks. That means I successfully move to the other code segments after this exception occurs. After this error occurs, though there is an error, but I successfully move to the next portion, next lines of my code segment. So this is called how we control or how we handle any exception by using this exception line, exception block. I hope you got my point. So now I can also mention specific error. Here I did not mention what kind of error is occurred here, but if there are multiple errors, multiple types of exception occurs in a same code segment, then I can also definitely mention what kind of error is occurred in which cases. So let's see. So we will now catch any exception using specific error type. So here we will mention what is the error type. So here we write another code segment a equal to 5 and b equal to 0, and if I try to divide this, this will create a zero division error because there is no string inside b. I assign 0, not a string inside b. If I assign a string, it will give me a type error. That means type mismatch error. If I use 0 as string, it will give me a type error. But as I assign integer value, it is a 0, normal 0. So now I will get a zero division error. So there may be two kind of situation. Two kind of situation can occur. So at this moment, it will get me a zero division error, not this type error. So I just create two branch of this exception, not actually branch, but multiple exception. So multiple exception can occur here. So I just write what kind of exception in when. But as I assign the value, always this will give me this zero division error. But if I take input from any other source multiple times, then different type of situation may occur. So here, as it means that 5 divide 0. It means 5 divide 0. That means it will give me 0 division error. That means this except will execute. That means this line will be shown in the output section. 0 0 0 division by 0 not allowed. This line will be executed, and after that I successfully move to the next statement. That means print out of try except block. Here I am outside of try except block. But if I use here 5 and 0 as a string, then it will give me unsupported operation. This line will not will be shown. It will show, it will, the output section will show that unsupported operation. And of course the last line out of try except blocks will be the same. Now if I try to use all the other portions with the activities, so here I mentioned, here I am inside the try block. Try will always execute because we need to check whether there is a error or there is exception, whether there is exception or not. So now I am in the try block, and there I assign value x equals to 3 and y equals to 4. If I divide 3 by 4, that means I am trying to divide 3 by 4. So now 3 by 4 equal to 0 0.7. So it is not a wrong thing. 0 0.75. 0 0.75. So now it is not an exception. It is absolutely okay. So this exception will not occur. There is no zero division error. So this exception will not execute, and this else portion will be executed. So then the control move to the else block. So when I at first I am inside the try block, then I take two input. I take two input, and then inside the then I move to the else block. Then I found this division result, and then finally I move to the finally block. Then I am inside the finally block, and then here in finally block I assign two values. That means I override the x and y value, and then I am trying to print after all these blocks I am moved to the out of the try catch or try except block. That means this is outside of the try except block, and x equals to here x equals to y and y equals to x equals to x value and y equals to y value. And here I got the x and y new value, and then I am here out of try except else and finally block. Okay. So if here I take another input, here I did not take 3 and 4, I take suppose 4 by 0. So it will give me a 0 division error. So here if I take 4 and 0, it will give me, it will not give me this block. It will give me a 0 this line. It will execute, and the result portion will give me these two lines, except 0 division error block. Then in the next line print this line will be printed division by 0 not except, and successfully and this else portion will not execute because except portion has been executed, and this finally portion obviously executed. And because we know that whether this exception occur or not, finally will always going to execute. So this finally portion will be executed. That's it. Now if I try to erase my own exception, what will happen? This kind of exception will be if I did not mention here, this kind of exception will be generated by the interpreter. But if I try to I have right, or I can raise my own exception. So let's raise an exception here. here in the inside try I write x equals to 5 and put a logic. If x greater than 100, raise value error. If x, the value of x becomes greater than 100, I want a value error will be occur, but not all the time. I put a logic. Sometimes it can be, or sometimes it cannot be. So there may be has choices. So if I take here I assign the value, but you have choice to take anything is instead of this 5. So there is a choice if the x value can be greater than or less than 100. If it is greater than 100, then error will be occurred, or exception will be raised. So this is how raised keyword can be used. Then it will move to the this exception value error. Here is the exception value error, and here this line will be printed. X is out of allowed range. So if the x is not violate these rules, if x is uh, less than 100, then this else portion will be occurred, because there is no exception occurred. So this else portion will be occurred, then x is within the allowed range will be printed. So I took 5 as input. So 5 is less than 100. That means this logic is not executed, and I successfully move to the else block, and this line will be printed. 5 is within the allowed range. So there is another keyword, that is assert. So assertion error and assertion error exception. How we can handle assertion error exception? Assertion error means I just restrict the system, or I just restrict the my program to be crashed. So when an exception occurs, there is a chance of crashing the program, and I can be out. I can be go through the out of the program. So to handle this kind of situation, we can use assert. When I can use assert keyword. Assert is meant for this logic will be this logic will be checked by the program. If this kind of exception occurs, the system will immediately move to an action. What kind of action will be taken? It is mentioned. It will be mentioned in this program, but it will save your program to be crashed. The system will not be crashed. So let's see how it works. Inside the try, I use a variable num equals to 5, and in the assert section, I just give a logic. The logic is num modulus 2 equals 0. That means num must be a even number. So if num is an even number, then it's then something will happen. If this kind of logic is false, this logic is false, then we have to move to the exception portion. We have to move to the exception portion. I took 5 as input, and if 5 is not a even number, so the exception will occur. So we move to the exception, and it will give me that a line not a even number. So in the output section, I can see that it is not an even number. So if I took 4, it will move to the else portion, because this except portion will not be executed, because the logic is true. So as the logic is true, it will move to the else portion. That means no exception occurs. So then r equal to 1 by num. That means 1 by 4 1 by 4 means whatever the value 0.25, then r will printed, and the value will be printed after all. So this is all about today's class. So I hope that you have understand whatever I told you in this class. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the live session. So till then, stay safe and keep studying. Thank you.